Good morning. This is the Wisdom Exchange, episode 2. Hello, folks. I'm Bruce Sheets, writer and storyteller, sharing life lessons and memories from a long road traveled. I'm 78 years old. I've worn many hats, traveled many roads, and discovered that some of life's greatest lessons come from ordinary people and everyday experiences. The purpose of the Wisdom Exchange is simple: to share stories, ideas, and lessons that can inspire us, make us think, perhaps even make us smile. I believe that wisdom isn't found only in books or classrooms. It's found in the lives we've lived and the experiences we've shared. So, thank you for joining me. I hope you'll come back each week as we explore another story, another lesson, and another opportunity to learn from one another. Now let's get started. Part 1, The Valley I Left Behind. In June of 1966, I graduated from high school. 2 weeks later, I left the only world I ever knew. I grew up in a tiny community of about 450 residents. It was in southwest Pennsylvania. Our town sat in a valley surrounded by the hills and farmland of the Laurel Highlands, part of the Appalachian Mountains. It was a beautiful place. From the top of the highest hill in town, on a clear day, we could look out and see Chestnut Ridge of the mountains rising in the distance. What a view! But those hills also held another story Beneath them were rich seams of bituminous coal. Coal was the lifeblood of our region. It provided jobs and supported families, but it also left its mark on the landscape. Some of those beautiful hills carried scars from the mines, large slag heaps that stood as reminders of the price our communities paid for economic survival. Our town was somewhat of an island. The surrounding communities were mostly coal company towns. Many carried the names of the companies that built them and provided housing for the miners. Nearby were places like Vesta 5, Vesta 6, Ellsworth, Vestaburg, Fredericktown, and Marianna. These were close-knit communities filled with families whose ancestors had come from across the ocean to work in the mines. As children, many of those residents' names and backgrounds seemed unfamiliar to us. We lived in a small world where most people shared the same traditions, the same churches, and the same way of life. Looking back now, I realize how limited my view of the world was. About 90% of the people in my hometown were white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. I was raised with the values of a small community, but I was also exposed to the attitudes and prejudices that existed in many small towns at that time. Then, in the fall of 1960, my world began to change. A realignment of the school districts brought students from the nearby mining communities into our schools. For the first time, I met classmates who were Black, Catholic, and descendants of immigrants from many different countries. What surprised me was how natural it felt. These were not strangers. They were my classmates, my friends, and my neighbors. I began to understand that America was much larger than the small valley where I had grown up. I saw firsthand that our country was built from many different backgrounds and experiences. To me, it was a glimpse of the true American dream. At the same time, the country itself was changing. The early 1960s were a time of tremendous social change and upheaval. Old ideas were challenged. Young people were finding new voices. And the music reflected, that music, that change. Every day brought new artists and new songs that seemed to capture the feeling of an entire generation. As Bob Dylan sang, the times they were a-changin'. My little corner of the world was cautious about change. But I was becoming curious about what was beyond those familiar hills. I wanted to see more. I wanted to experience the world that was unfolding beyond my hometown. By the time I graduated in 1966, I knew I was ready for something different. I had saved some money from working at the local service station, pumping gas, and doing whatever odd jobs I could find. Then an opportunity came along. My brother Ben was managing a motel in Los Angeles. He invited me to come west and experience California. He told me I could stay at the motel until I found work and I could afford a place of my own. What a bargain. Oh, yeah. To a young man who had rarely traveled beyond the borders of Pennsylvania, California seemed almost like another planet to me. But the idea of seeing something new was too exciting to ignore. So I made a decision. 2 weeks after graduating high school, I packed my belongings, said goodbye to my mom, and started west. I didn't know exactly what awaited me, but I knew one thing: the world was bigger than my body, and I was determined to discover it. As we come to the end of today's story, I'd like to leave you with a question. Has there ever been a time in your life when you stood at a crossroads, when one decision changed everything, everything that followed? Maybe it was leaving home, possibly starting a new job, or serving in the military, possibly changing careers, or simply taking a chance when no one else believed you should. Those moments become the chapters we remember. And they're often the moments that teach us the most. If you would like to share one of those stories, send it to me at radiohill.com. That's radio, like in a radio tire, radiohill at gmail.com. From time to time, I'll feature your stories in the Wisdom Exchange newsletter, because the best conversations aren't one-sided, they're shared. But be forewarned, I may use some of your stories for a new book. If today's episode brought back a memory or made you think about your own journey, I hope you'll join me for part 2, where the road continues and the lessons become even clearer. Until then, take good care of yourself.